As unprecedented wildfires continue to spread across the country, so does false information about why. This misinformation has been promoted by some media outlets and even a handful of elected officials. That's despite a virtual consensus among scientists that wildfires are becoming more frequent and severe due to human-caused climate change. To learn more about the problem and how to address it, I'm joined now by Michael Mann. He's Presidential Distinguished Professor and Director of the Penn Center for Science, Sustainability and the Media. He's also the author of a recent book called The New Climate War, which spells out how fossil fuel companies have sought to delay action on the climate. We've reached him today in Boalsburg, Pennsylvania. So, Professor, welcome. Thank you so much for making some time for us.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Let's start here by talking a little bit about what we know from scientists, just how certain they are that human-caused climate change, is a driver of these increasingly severe and frequent wildfires that we're seeing in various places around the world, but including here in Canada.
Yeah, we use fairly sophisticated climate models to make projections of future climate change and the impact that climate change is having now on extreme weather events. But this one isn't hard. You don't need a sophisticated model. You take unusual heat, unusual drought, you put them together, and you get more expansive wildfires, hotter burning, faster spreading, more dangerous, more damaging wildfires. And we've seen that around the world. I saw that down in Australia a few years ago when I happened to be there during what they now call the Black Summer, when unprecedented heat and drought combined to give those devastating wildfires that blanketed the nation. And it's, as Yogi Berra famously once said, it's deja vu all over again, because I feel like I'm seeing the same thing now here in the eastern United States, where I could smell the wildfire smoke. I could see it in my home here in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, even though those fires, of course, are hundreds and hundreds of kilometers away from where you are in Pennsylvania. Certainly something
Indeed.
That we've noticed in recent weeks on social media. Some people have been suggesting that arsonists and not climate change are to blame for these fires. We've seen various satellite images that they've used, that they have been spreading on social media, showing wildfires starting, saying that, of course, this must be an arsonist doing this because they're all springing up at the same time. That's just some of the misinformation that we've seen recently. Talk to us a little bit about that, about what you've been noticing and why it could be damaging.
Yeah, this massive misinformation campaign, we see it here in the United States, we see it in Canada, we saw it in Australia. And again, deja vu, because that's what was happening when these wildfires were spreading across the country. You had the Murdoch media in particular, the Rupert Murdoch's media empire, which in the United States, owns Fox News, the Wall Street Journal editorial pages. In Australia, the Murdoch media empire owns a large proportion of their various television, print, and radio news outlets, and they often use Murdoch often uses that media empire to blanket the airwaves, to promote misinformation and disinformation about climate change, and that's what was going on in Australia. It was the same talking points. They talked about, oh, it's arson, oh, it's lightning strikes, oh, it's bad forest management practices. Those talking points are recited over and over again, even though they've been completely debunked. Scientists have shown that you can't explain these far faster spreading, more extensive, hotter burning fires from just, the whatever happens to start the fire. What controls how large they get, how expansive they get, how much damage they do, is how much fuel there is in the form of basically vegetation, weakened forests and trees, dry material that's available to give rise to these massive fires. And so here, in the United States, here, up there in Canada, we're again seeing that same sort of misinformation. And it's part of what I call the new climate war. Look, climate deniers, polluters, and those who promote their agenda, conservative news outlets, the Murdoch media empire, they can't deny climate change is happening anymore because people can see it. So instead, they're trying to convince us, well, it isn't that bad, or, there are other ways to deal with it. We don't need to get off fossil fuels. This is part of that new climate war.
How would you respond then to people who have some of these questions, who maybe don't believe that this is being caused by human activity and climate change? Would you respond to that? How would you suggest that people maybe speak with family members, people in their lives who are not convinced?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are resources out there. One of the resources I like, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS, which is the largest science organization in the United States, has a website, Sciline, SCILINE, where they talk about the state of understanding of climate change and how it's impacting extreme weather events, how it's impacting these wildfires. And one of the things that medium does and others have tried to do is to dispel this notion that this has to do with how the fire started. It doesn't matter if it's arson. It doesn't matter if it's a lightning strike. If you have enough of that dry fuel because of exceptional heat and drought, and we're seeing truly exceptional drought across much of Canada right now. If you have those conditions, it doesn't matter what starts the fire. What's going to determine how extensive and damaging those wildfires become is how much fuel there is. And that is related directly to the heat and the drought. And climate models very clearly indicate that, but we can actually see that now in what's playing out in real time.
Michael, great to speak with you today. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Michael Mann for us.